Here's an uncomfortable reality to consider. During this World Cup, VAR has delivered a higher percentage of correct refereeing decisions than at any previous tournament in football history. Studies estimate its accuracy at around 98%. Yet despite those impressive numbers, the system has become one of the tournament's biggest controversies. Somehow, the more decisions FIFA's video technology got right, the more fans around the world came to resent it, distrust it, and accuse FIFA of manipulating the competition. That contradiction, becoming more accurate while simultaneously becoming less trusted, represents FIFA's greatest challenge. Today, we're breaking down exactly how a system created to improve football ended up creating even greater controversy. To understand that, we first need to remember what VAR was originally designed to achieve, because its purpose was genuinely well-intentioned. It emerged in response to some of football's most infamous officiating mistakes. Think back to Thierry Henry's obvious handball that helped eliminate Ireland from World Cup qualification, or Frank Lampard's perfectly legitimate goal against Germany in 2010 that crossed the line but was never awarded. Incidents like those finally pushed a reluctant FIFA into embracing video technology. As referee Mark Geiger, one of the officials involved in introducing VAR, explained, the goal was simple: minimum interference with maximum benefit. The system was supposed to quietly correct only the biggest, most obvious game-changing mistakes while increasing confidence in refereeing decisions. That was the promise. But somewhere along the way, that vision unraveled spectacularly. The first major problem lies within the system's very design, and once you notice it, it's surprisingly difficult to ignore. VAR is only permitted to review 4 specific situations: goals, penalty decisions, mistaken identity, and potential straight red cards. It cannot recommend or issue a yellow card under any circumstances. Imagine a referee reviewing a dangerous challenge on the pitch-side monitor, deciding it deserves a booking, yet being unable to show one. The official is left with only 2 choices: either take no action at all or issue a straight red card. There is no middle option. This isn't an occasional oversight but a structural limitation built directly into the system, one capable of producing controversial outcomes even when everyone recognizes the obvious solution. That weakness exploded into the tournament's biggest controversy. Folarin Balogun stepped on a Bosnian defender's ankle during a brief collision that many referees and rules experts believed deserved nothing more than a yellow card. However, after reviewing the incident, the referee had only 2 available options under the VAR protocol: no punishment or a straight red card. He chose the red. What should have remained a routine refereeing decision instead became a major international controversy involving political attention, a suspension that was later overturned in only the second such reversal in World Cup history, and even Belgium mocking the situation by celebrating its victory over the United States with a pointed, "overturn this" message. The same structural issue resurfaced during Switzerland's quarter-final against Argentina. Rather than simply withdrawing what many considered a soft yellow card shown to Leandro Paredes, the referee instead transferred the punishment to Breel Embolo for simulation, resulting in Embolo's dismissal and leaving Switzerland with only 10 players. Swiss coach Murat Yakin described the entire situation with a single word: unacceptable. A system that cannot consistently provide the most reasonable solution will inevitably continue producing decisions that leave players, coaches, and supporters deeply frustrated. Problem number 2 is even more philosophical, and it sparked perhaps the biggest controversy of all. Just how far back should VAR be allowed to review a play? During Argentina's round of 16 match against Egypt, Mostafa Mohamed appeared to score a brilliant second goal that would have given Egypt a 2-0 lead over the defending champions. However, VAR intervened and ruled the goal out after identifying an Egyptian foul during the build-up. The controversial part was that the foul had occurred nearly 17 seconds earlier and almost 100 yards away at the opposite end of the pitch. By FIFA's interpretation of the laws of the game, the decision was technically defensible because an attacking phase has no fixed limit on time or distance. Even so, it exposed a major logical problem. Minor fouls happen throughout every match, constantly influencing everything that follows. If officials are allowed to rewind far enough, then almost any goal could potentially be overturned. Even experienced referees disagreed. Chris Foy argued it was one continuous attacking move, while Mark Clattenburg believed the passage of time and distance had already broken the sequence, adding that he was not even convinced a foul had occurred in the first place. The issue is not the technology itself. The real problem is that a human referee still decides where one attacking phase begins and another ends, and different officials interpret that boundary very differently. The same debate resurfaced when Norway had a goal against England ruled out because of a push by Erling Haaland before the ball was even in play. When nobody can clearly define where a review should begin, technology no longer creates certainty. Instead, it simply introduces another source of endless debate. Problem number 3 is even more subtle and surprisingly fascinating. Research suggests the technology itself can influence the referee's judgment in ways it was never intended to. Studies involving elite officials have shown that watching incidents in slow motion often leads referees to issue harsher punishments than they would after viewing the same challenge at full speed. Think about what that means. Bringing an official to the monitor and replaying a tackle frame by frame can make an ordinary collision appear far more dangerous than it looked in real time, increasing the likelihood of a red card that might never have been shown on the field. The Balogun incident perfectly illustrates this effect. At normal speed the challenge appeared relatively routine, yet in slow motion it looked far more severe. As United States defender Chris Richards remarked, "Look at anything under a microscope and you'll probably find something." That perfectly captures the problem. VAR hands referees a microscope and then seems surprised when every challenge begins to resemble a serious offense. This leads directly to the greatest contradiction of the entire debate. Ironically, many of the tournament's most controversial VAR decisions were technically correct according to the laws of the game. Breel Embolo really did dive. Iran's offside goal truly was offside by the smallest margin. Croatia's equalizer genuinely came after the ball brushed a teammate's hair, placing the scorer in an offside position and ending Luka Modric's World Cup journey in heartbreaking fashion. The technology does not lie. Accuracy has reached roughly 98%. Yet somehow football feels worse because absolute accuracy was never the sport's only priority. Former FIFA referee Christina Unkel summarized the problem perfectly by arguing that football is ultimately an art, and a system obsessed with black and white perfection slowly strips away its soul. Endless debates over toenail offsides and microscopic touches may satisfy the rulebook, but they rarely satisfy the people watching. Deciding the fate of legendary players or crushing a nation's dream over an almost invisible touch may be technically flawless, yet it often feels emotionally empty. FIFA built a system designed to be as accurate as possible but overlooked an equally important truth. Being technically correct is not always the same as being good for the game. There is another consequence that receives far less attention, and it has nothing to do with any individual decision. VAR has fundamentally changed the way supporters experience football itself, even during the vast majority of the match when it is not actively involved. One of football's greatest joys has always been the instant a goal is scored, when millions of fans celebrate together without hesitation. Friends embrace, strangers cheer together, and entire stadiums erupt in a single unforgettable moment. VAR has quietly taken much of that spontaneity away. Today, when the ball hits the back of the net, players hesitate before celebrating and supporters immediately look toward the referee, waiting for a signal that a review may be coming. Instead of celebrating, everyone holds their breath. Even when the goal is eventually confirmed, the emotion often arrives several seconds later, weakened and less genuine than it would have been naturally. What was once an immediate explosion of joy has become cautious anticipation, and when a referee finally walks to the monitor before disallowing a goal, the disappointment feels even greater. In doing so, FIFA has not only changed the way football matches are officiated. It has fundamentally changed how the sport feels to watch, and for many supporters, that experience has become less enjoyable than before. Which brings us to what may be FIFA's biggest nightmare of all. VAR was introduced with one primary objective: to increase public confidence in refereeing decisions. Instead, it has achieved almost the exact opposite. Rather than building trust, it has convinced millions of fans that the World Cup is being manipulated in favor of Lionel Messi and Argentina. The widespread VAR Argentina conspiracy gained momentum directly from controversial decisions involving Egypt and Breel Embolo, both of which favored the defending champions. Every disputed review is immediately clipped, slowed down, shared across social media, and presented as supposed evidence of corruption. A system designed to end arguments has instead created the biggest officiating debate football has seen in the modern era. Former FIFA referee Christina Unkel, who has covered major international tournaments for years, has openly stated that fan confidence in officiating has reached its lowest point, adding that she has never witnessed this level of anger and distrust before. England manager Thomas Tuchel also criticized the officiating, describing it as inconsistent and unpredictable while warning that any team could be affected by controversial decisions at any moment. From Egypt and Croatia to Switzerland and Iran, supporters from nearly every nation have found reasons to believe their team was treated unfairly. When a system created to build trust instead fuels suspicion, it cannot be considered a success. It becomes a serious problem. The controversy only intensified after Argentina defeated England in the semi-final. Before the players had even left the field, social media erupted once again with freeze frames, slow-motion clips, and thousands of posts claiming FIFA had once again manipulated the outcome. Whether the decisions were technically correct no longer mattered because the narrative had already taken hold. Egypt coach Hossam Hassan had planted that seed weeks earlier when he suggested officials wanted Messi to remain in the tournament. Once an organization completely loses the public's benefit of the doubt, every review, correct or incorrect, simply becomes more evidence for those already convinced something is wrong. That may be VAR's greatest consequence. It has not only affected matches but also damaged the credibility of the tournament itself. Perhaps the clearest indication that FIFA recognized the problem came through its own actions. During the tournament, officials quietly modified the review process by moving operations away from a centralized control room in Dallas and assigning dedicated VAR officials inside each remaining stadium. Organizations do not redesign critical systems in the middle of their biggest event unless they believe something is going seriously wrong. Although refereeing chief Pierluigi Collina continued defending the standard of officiating while dismissing conspiracy theories, the decision to alter procedures midway through the competition spoke volumes. It suggested FIFA understood that public confidence in the system was collapsing and felt compelled to respond immediately. That is not the behavior of an organization completely confident in its own process. At the same time, the honest conversation is more complicated than simply declaring VAR a failure. Football introduced video review for very real reasons. Thierry Henry's infamous handball against Ireland and Frank Lampard's disallowed goal against Germany remain among the sport's greatest officiating mistakes. Few people genuinely want to return to an era where obvious errors eliminate entire nations from major tournaments. Former United States coach Bruce Arena, whose team suffered from a missed handball during the 2002 World Cup, summed it up perfectly by saying he wished VAR had existed back then. Many experienced analysts argue that the technology itself is not the real problem. Cameras simply provide evidence. Human referees still interpret that evidence. Better officiating standards, clearer review protocols, evaluating incidents at full speed instead of relying heavily on slow motion, and providing transparent explanations after controversial decisions could solve many of the current issues. The real failure was never introducing cameras. It was expecting technology to replace human judgment when football has always depended upon interpretation as much as precision. Then comes perhaps the most cynical possibility of all. Every controversial VAR decision dominates headlines, trends across social media, and fuels non-stop debate around the world. From London to Buenos Aires, every disputed review keeps the World Cup at the center of the global conversation for days. VAR has become far more than a refereeing tool. It has evolved into football's biggest source of drama, discussion, and online engagement. That raises an uncomfortable question. If controversy consistently generates attention, and attention generates enormous commercial value, does FIFA truly have strong incentives to eliminate it completely? The organization has already demonstrated a willingness to maximize commercial opportunities in other areas of the tournament, leading some critics to question whether endless debate has become valuable in its own right. An organization that benefits from controversy may have little motivation to remove it entirely. On Sunday, Argentina and Spain will meet in a World Cup final that should represent a celebration of football at its very best. Yet many supporters will watch not only the players but also every decision made by the referee, waiting for the next review and preparing to accuse the tournament of being rigged the moment the monitor is used. That may become VAR's lasting legacy. FIFA invested enormous resources into a system intended to eliminate controversy, silence criticism, and strengthen confidence in the game's biggest event. Instead, it created a technology that works with remarkable accuracy while simultaneously encouraging unprecedented levels of doubt. The system became almost technically flawless, but in doing so, it weakened trust, reduced spontaneous emotion, and fueled conspiracy theories embraced by millions. Ironically, that may be the worst possible outcome FIFA could have imagined. What do you think? Should VAR remain part of football with meaningful improvements, or is it time to remove it completely and accept the imperfections of human refereeing once again? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and make sure you're back for the World Cup final because One way or another, few people expect the biggest match of the tournament to pass without another dramatic visit to the monitor.